The fact that your prayers are getting answered is not a reflection of your church being true. These are questions that I would have asked if I were you. Hey, look, can someone be taught to change their gender? Is this possible? What causes the incongruence between biology and gender in some people? What problems are the trans community creating for cisgender women? Why is there no backlash regarding female to male trans? I mean, I do believe that it's interesting that where there's no fear, there's also no problems. What's the correlation between someone's sex, gender, and sexual orientation? Connect those dots for us if you can. All right. Let's get into some really good questions that Matt asked right at the beginning of the movie. And one of the reasons that I was so hopeful about this movie, because they were good questions, and I was very interested in to hear his answer and perspective on these things. Apparently they were rhetorical questions, but they're still worth, I think, an answer or an opinion. Again, this is my opinion, okay? I'm not a doctor. This is my opinion, and I would still really enjoy to hear yours, so please feel free to comment and give me your answers to these questions. But this is my perspective or my answers on the questions that Matt asked. We're going to get right into the interviews and the information that we discovered in those interviews. Now we're going to go back to the scenario that Matt created for us at the very beginning of the movie. It was his kid's birthday party. They're twins. There's a boy, there's a girl, there's girl stuff going on, there's boy stuff going on. Everything is different, the communication, everything else. And then I introduced this element, this idea that there's this younger child, a couple years younger, that's absolutely enthralled and only interested in the girl stuff. And so we introduced the idea that this child maintains this temperament and stays committed and connected to that world, what that child's world looks like and what support looks like for that child. So we're going to continue that thought into these interviews after these questions. So keep that in mind for 1 second. Please feel free to comment. I'd like to know where you are on this thing. Now, first question Matt asked is, what is truth? My answer, truth is just evidence of your thinking or your beliefs. Or, in your case, truth is actually the substitute for evidence. That's what truth is. As an example, if I asked all you Christians, hey, why is your church true? Then I'm going to get answers like, well, because I pray. And because my prayers get answered. Because I've literally seen miracles in my life. Because daily I see that the universe is conspiring for my good. That's how I know that my church is true. Because my prayers get answered. Well, gosh, that's what the Jewish guy said, except for he used miracles twice. So is that a more true church or a less true church? The fact that your prayers are getting answered is not a reflection of your church being true. It's a reflection of God being true. God is not church. Church is not God. They're two different things. We will spend our entire life proving or creating or discovering or recognizing evidence of our belief system. And that becomes our truth. Is there a truth? Yes. And it will expand proportional to your understanding. Is this what progress looks like? Yes. It's the organic disruption maintaining previously held beliefs or bias when new and better information is available. Can my boys really become girls? Genetically? No. Socially, emotionally, and physically? Yes. Is there a son trapped in my daughter's body? If so, it's not a trap. It's a reality. And it's the toolbox that nature gave them to build a beautiful life. If so, how do I get him out? If so, you can embrace them or you can shame them. So pick the relationship you want with your child. Are any of my kids who they claim to be? Well, it depends on how safe your kids feel with you and what they're claiming. But for your information, many people would not feel safe providing you any information that contradicts your limited understanding or narrow perspective. You can be aggressively ignorant. That's those questions. So let's dig a little bit deeper into this. Is there a son trapped in my daughter's body? So what happens when your son comes and says, hey, look, I really feel like I can do everything a boy can do. I mean, I feel like I'm more of a boy than a girl. So when that conversation starts up, how does that sound? For most, at least dads having that conversation with the daughter. Of course you can. And I'll have strong words with anyone who thinks otherwise. You are capable of doing everything that a boy can do. You can compete on every level. That's how strong you are. That's how capable you are. That's why you have an unfair advantage over everybody else, because you're that capable. So never, never be less capable than you know you are, right? That's very empowering, because a strong girl, a tomboy, that's very powerful, right? And you're not going to discourage them. We'll get to the conversation you have with your son in just a minute. Now, is she going to have a double mastectomy? Yes. If she stays the course because you made it illegal for her to take blockers to prevent the breast from developing while she figures it out. So, unfortunately, yes, you just forced that. She will also likely be taking a plethora of pharmaceuticals with tons of side effects to cope while not being allowed critical hormone balance. Nice work, Dad. My question is, would you take her to your church if your church was non-affirming? Would you take your person who's living outside of others' expectations to church if you knew that everyone inside that church had not been given permission to believe your person or believe in your person or recognize or encourage your person? Would you still take them to the church as a sign of your righteousness and your commitment to doing good? And how in the world would you talk to your child into surrendering parts of their nature, and which talents would you have them surrender? Which ones? Which ones do you? No, listen, I'm gonna prefer that you feel differently about a lot of those things in your life. So which one of those do you peel off? Which one of them do you tell to ignore? Exactly. How does that work? How about this? Let's get into this. Can my boys really become girls? Okay, now we're having a completely different conversation, because a strong girl, a masculine girl, has potential, where a weak boy is just a target. So how would you have this conversation? Gosh, I really feel like I can do everything a girl can. I feel like more of a girl than a boy. What in the hell is wrong with you? Are you trying to get your ass kicked every single day? Do you wake up in the morning going, this is the day that I get hit harder? What is wrong with you? You are about to destroy your life. And this, my friends, is why when we're talking about social contagion and these girls who say, wait a minute, I feel like I can do that, there's no risk there. And the truth is, there are a lot more girls that are feeling vibrationally connected to this masculine world for whatever reason, for whatever caused that tuning fork to, turn on those switches that's out there. And it's great. It's wonderful. They're very strong. It's amazing. But the opposite is a problem. And that's a problem in itself. So that's why you don't hear a lot. I've actually not heard it at all. Some boy come out and say, hey, look, I was so sad and I was so lonely, and I saw these guys, getting this attention. And so I just decided I'm going to, put on a dress. It's not happening because there's no advantage to it. You literally have to take a step back into bias in order to move forward in that direction. So boys, they're not willing to take the risk until the risk of staying the course just becomes too deep. So that conversation needs to go very, very different. So what is an appropriate response for that? Exactly. You are with all of these professionals who are treating young trans kids and all of these youth. And if your child, you're like, oh my gosh, that my son he's just not growing out of this. He's just so interested in everything girl. Wouldn't you be wanting to know some other things? Wouldn't you have some different questions for all of those professionals than you actually asked? Wouldn't you? Wouldn't it sound more something like this? Wouldn't you want to know, hey, look, what is an appropriate response to that comment? I don't want to break the person. I don't want to break this person. How about this? This would be maybe a suggestion that I would have. Wow, thank you for sharing that with me. That was probably very difficult to share. You probably didn't know how I would react, but thank you for telling me what is important. I hope you always feel comfortable coming to me and telling me where you are and what is important. Now, what does this mean to you? What do you feel like you need from here? Do you just need me to know that those things are important? Tell me what it is that's driving you right now. Let me see if I can help steer you in a direction that's going to have the least negative impact on you without breaking who you are and these special abilities that you have and this perspective that you have of these two worlds. So that would be, a conversation, at least that would be a response, one response that you would probably get more information, you would build more trust, you would create more safety in the space of that child. So that is one example of something that could be said. But why didn't you ask any of those people, look, well, my kids feel a little effeminate, a little more so than I was maybe thinking or hoping for. So what does trans kid vocabulary sound? How does that differ from just a normal, traditionally gendered person? What would their behavior look like? Because my child seems to be super obsessed with stick slippers and, plastic tiaras. What does that behavior look like? What age would these traits start to be expressed? Because my child started expressing these at this age. So is this normal? When do parents start to go, hold on, we need to really start being aware? At what age are kids most vulnerable to the influence of changing their gender? Did something happen to my kid at some point that's making them consider maybe changing genders? Like, what ages are they most susceptible to it? What would that instruction look like if they were being induced to change their gender? By what age do they grow out of it? Miriam Grossman, your expert, your kingpin, your person with all the, plaques on the wall. According to her, she said, look, if you just don't do anything, 90% of, the kids are just they're going to be okay. They're going to be fine. They're just going to grow right out of it. So when Miriam Grossman says that 90% of all kids will just snap out of it totally perfectly fine, I feel like I have to ask the question then, so this 1.6 million people, which by the way does not even include anybody younger than 13. So in the 4 years between age 13 and 17, they have over 300,000 youth. Look at the percentage of the youth as a whole. That is 1.4%. So the younger they get, the higher that percentage is trending. So how many people in the first 13 years? And that's really kind of who we're talking about. It's got to be much more than the 300,000. I don't know because those numbers are not available. But my point is, so what we're saying here, let's just call this let's just use the 1.6 million, okay? Let's not even include the people younger than 13. So Miriam Grossman, are you saying then that this is the 10% that just didn't snap out of it? So really what we're talking about is there was 16 million people that struggled with this, but 90% of them just snapped out of it, and this is what is left? Like, is that what you're saying? Because that seems crazy. That just seems like, wow, if that's true, then this is a much bigger issue than we had originally thought, and we really need to start addressing it differently if it is, in fact, 16 million. We have to address it anyway. They're real people anyway, whether it's 2 people or 2 million people. We still have to treat everybody with respect. Now, let's go back to the slide right here. What age should they grow out of it? That would be important for me to know. What's been the most effective way of dealing with young trans people? I would be very interested in that if my child was showing those signs. What's the success ratio of converting a trans person to live in a conventional gender? Tell me what the percentages look like here. What are the chances that I'm going to have some of those experiences that I had already conjured up in my mind? What school, Matt, would you enroll them in to avoid bullying and discrimination? It surely wouldn't be a school that the Republicans were in, for sure. You got Jordan Peterson over there ranting about if you're putting your child in a school and they even bring up diversity or inclusion or those, get them out of there as quick as possible. What? We don't want our kids to be compatible with as many people as possible. We don't want our kids to learn respect and to be able to protect and respect other people. So that's going to be a tough, decision when you're putting them in school if that school is filled with, fans of the Daily Wire. What if my kid wants to play sports? Well, unfortunately, your kid won't be playing sports because they won't be allowed the blockers and the hormones to experience the same puberty as the people that they really need to compete with. Matt, I got to ask you, what bathroom would you prefer that your child uses? Now you've stirred everybody into thinking that every trans person is a repeat sex offender, and now it's your child that's 10, whatever age they are, and they need to use a bathroom and they're all dolled up the best they can. What bathroom do you want them to go in when you're not there? You think that child would be safe going in a men's restroom like that? Or do you think they'd be probably a little safer in the girls' restroom? Where would you prefer your child to go if that was your situation? What impact do hormones have on a trans person? I'd be asking that to every single person that I talk to. And hey, look, what if I lived in the state that I created these unbelievably shitty laws in and hormones weren't available? Like what are my options? What can I do for my child to keep them healthy and safe? These are questions that are significant and really could have been asked, if you were interested in asking them. It was such a miss. You had so many good people available at your disposal to really understand this differently if that was your intention. Now, this next piece right here, this was really a zero value add. You had an opportunity here to find out some stuff. I mean, this is a person, Rodrigo, represents this community. Shouldn't you have, more questions to ask about exactly what this community needs and what they want? If it were me doing this interview, I would have 100% surely asked him, hey, how would you address Dave Chappelle's comment? Dave Chappelle made a comment that he took a lot of heat for, and here it is. Hey, look, I support anyone's right to be who they want to be. My question is, to what extent do I have to participate in your self-image? Now, when I saw that come up and then I was reading all the comments and transphobe, all this negative stuff, but the reality is that is a brilliant question, and it's the first question we need to answer, period. Everybody needs to know that. This is a question you could have asked Rodrigo. Hey, look, you represent this community. Just help us understand exactly what you're asking for. Tell us what exactly does support look like from your community. We're not transphobic, but we're also not rushing into stuff that we don't understand. So help us understand what exactly it is that you're asking for. I think it's a brilliant question. I think it's a well-worded question. I think it's a thoughtful question. And I think it's a question that needs to be answered. Now, I don't represent that community. Not trans enough. However, I do have a response to that question, and I will give you that. This is my response to that question. What I believe is reasonable to expect from you, Dave Chappelle, is the same thing that I think is reasonable to expect from everybody, and that's safe. Not just from your hands, but also from the content that could be used by others to justify mistreatment. Now, please don't stop telling trans jokes, but please be careful with the ones that can be retooled into weapons. Please don't make me a target walking to my car after attending your show. If you can just provide a safe environment, then karma and character will work out the rest. Dave Chappelle is by far my favorite comedian, and when I'm scrolling, I see his name come up. I can't even talk about him without smiling, because when I see him, I know I am about to hear something very, very funny. So, I don't want you to stop, telling trans jokes. I think that's great. Again, just don't make me feel nervous leaving your show and walking to my car. That's all. So safety, Dave Chappelle, is what I think is reasonable to expect from not only you, but from everybody. So I'm comfortable working everything else out. But that was a great question. I wish he would have asked a few people that, especially Rodrigo, who represents that community. Now, this person really confused me. This is Miriam Grossman. This was your kingpin. This is your person with all of the credentials on the wall. So you go to her Facebook page, and it says, psychiatrist fighting gender ideology for 15 years. When biology is denied, a price is paid. For 15 years, she's already been an activist against the trans community. People don't understand what transgender is right now, including you. So what in the world did you know 15 years ago to make people turn on the community then? You're a psychiatrist and you don't understand self-actualization? You don't understand, Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the value of self-actualization and the role that plays in your life and bleeds into every single thing that you do? Like, were you absent the day they taught mental health in psychiatry school? Maybe a Bible study, perhaps? I don't really know. But that also explains this question. Your answer. So Matt asked, what is transgenderism from a psychiatric standpoint? Here's Miriam's answer. Gender dysphoria is an intense loathing and discomfort with one's biological sex. What? Listen, you need to get together with Jordan Peterson so he can help you understand what exactly that is. Gender dysphoria is not about biology. It's not about sex. It's about gender. And, you clearly don't understand that after 15 years. So what in the world are you using as a basis to be against this community? How do you not understand in 15 years of something that you're against, even what it is? You said sex is based on biology. It's unchanging. It's based on chromosomes. Yeah, well, we're not talking about sex, knucklehead. We're talking about gender. Now, I do like what you said next. Gender is a perception. It's a feeling. It's a way of identifying. It's an experience. Now, that I feel is pretty good. That I feel, is at least kind of valid. So, if gender is a perception, a feeling, a way of identifying, are you suggesting that I don't have the ability to perceive the world as it is to me? Are you suggesting that I don't have the ability to feel those things or identify or have that experience that comes natural to me? Is that what you're suggesting as a medical professional, as a mental health specialist? Is that what you're suggesting with that comment? And then what is this? The vast majority, up to 90% of kids who just go through a normal puberty, they will be okay. They will be at peace with their bodies. So what are these 1.6 million people? Are they the 10%, Miriam Grossman? This was pretty much a zero-sum segment as well. Your professional what a joke that was. How in the world 15 years ago did you understand enough to hate this group all the way back then? That's unbelievable. Now, this is also a ridiculous statement that you said. Matt said, well, how is this happening? And you said your comment was, well, because these parents are being, I don't remember if you used the word blackmail, but you said they're being told, hey, look, would you rather have an alive daughter or a dead son? That's what they're using as an argument for these parents to be affirming their children's gender identity. Does that argument, does that not seem like a fair argument? Does that not seem pretty genuine? For real? Because here's the deal, Miriam Grossman. Let's talk about some statistics just for a second. This is from the NIH, which is the National Library of Medicine. Data indicates that 82% of transgender individuals have considered killing themselves, and 40 have attempted suicide, with suicidality highest among transgender youth. 82% of transgender people are at least thinking about it. 82 friggin' percent. You think that maybe if it wasn't real, they would just go, you know what, I think I'm going to think about something else. Maybe golf. That sounds good. 82% and 40% are going to attempt it. Now, how does that compare with mainstream? Now, this is also from the same website, by the way. 4.9 of adults age 18 and older in the United States had serious thoughts about suicide in 2020. 4.9. Among young adults aged 18 to 25 was 11.3. In 2020, 0.5% of adults aged 18 and older in the United States reported they attempted suicide in the past year. And again, it was the highest among young adults 18 to 25 years. So these numbers are absolutely staggering. They're staggering. So for someone to say, hey, look, at the end of the day, would you rather have an alive daughter or a dead son? Statistically speaking. But if there's an 82% chance that your child is thinking of suicide, here's what you don't. You don't give them a bunch of other medicines, antidepressants, and all of these things to compensate for not having hormones that elicit a suicidal thought or more of that tendency. That's what you don't do. That segment was so weird and unimportant and disinformational. It was crazy. Now, Michelle Forcier, this was an interesting segment here as well. Now, this is somebody that really I felt probably had a lot of insight. This was a 100% miss, this segment, because this is somebody that came to give answers. This is somebody that said, hey, I want to help you understand this better. However, because you're an asshole, and an asshole is somebody that asks a question with the intention of abusing the person with the information that they give you. Because you're such an asshole that almost every interview got cut short because nobody wanted to tolerate that kind of abuse. So this would have been a person that I would have got a lot of information out of. But instead, we talked about chickens and all that stuff. But right out of the gates, I didn't like how you introduced this person as an abortionist. Now tell me how an abortionist is relevant to transgender. Please, why did you throw that in there? Why did you have to try to discredit her with bringing up something that's against your moral beliefs to discredit her about being an expert with this issue, which needs answers? It's somebody that came to give answers, and you start with an abortion. But since you brought it up, Matt, let me ask you something. Now, when you say she's an abortionist, what was your intention with that? Because are you suggesting for a second that there are not very many, very valid reasons why somebody would have an abortion? Are you suggesting that abortions should not be possible? Wow, interesting. Because that kind of narrow, selfish, righteous thinking is going to put a lot of people doing necessary things in unnecessary places. And that is not going to turn out well. When it comes to somebody's body, it's their body. It's their choice. Now, make no mistake about it. I am pro-life. Make no mistake about that. I am pro-life. But I'm pro the mother's life first. First and foremost, always. I am for the mother's life. When that woman got pregnant, she did not surrender the rest of her life to your biases and your belief system. Every person has the ability to control what happens to their own body. By the way, do you realize, I heard this on somewhere the other day and I looked it up. What I heard was 90% of all abortions happen in 12 weeks or less. So they're, first trimester, they're in that risk trimester. And I was like, really? Well, that's kind of surprising. The way it's talked about, it seems like everybody's, pulling out legs and just sawing them off. And, I thought that's what they were talking about with all of this child mutilation. So I looked it up myself, and the stat that I saw was actually 93%. 93% of abortions occurred during the first trimester. That is at or before 13 weeks of gestation. So that surprised me. That's just a fun fact I'm throwing in there right now. But my point was really, you don't get to choose what anybody else does with their body. There are some very, very valid reasons. I'm pro-life, but I'm pro the mother's life first. And especially in that first trimester, that is not a baby. That is a liability. To the mother, that is a liability. So, until that child is breathing and living independent of the mother's life is the most important. And when we take that priority out, then we get all effed up. So, the mother's life comes first. The mother's body is the mother's choice, period. That is my feeling on that. I'm pro-life, but I'm pro-freedom more than I'm pro-bias. I'm pro-freedom more than I'm pro-my morality. So, that was a weird thing to bring up with her. That was my only point. Now, the other thing that was super weird about that, here she is trying to help you understand the complexity of this, and all of a sudden you start talking about chickens. Chickens. Oh, what about a chicken? Do we have to watch a chicken to see if it lays an egg to know if it's a chicken or not? And she's like, what? Why are we talking about chickens? Do chickens commit suicide? What are you doing talking about chickens? Well, what are you saying? Chicken... Right. This is incredible. But just another fun fact, just so you know, there are chickens that on one side of their body are male and have the little rooster deal and the claw and everything. And then on the other side of the body has this dainty little, feathers and the hen body. Just so you know. So if you came across a chicken like this, I'm pretty sure you're just going to have to wait to see if it lays an egg to see really, what that chicken is. So this was, I just thought fascinating, so I thought I would share that. But actually there are, chickens born half male and female. In fact, they're saying that it probably happens in all species of birds. So, you can go back and reference that slide and do your own research. I just thought that it was interesting, but the reality is you don't know more about chickens than you do about gender. That was just a fun fact. But that was a missed segment. It was a missed segment, and she shut you down because you started talking about castration, chemical castration drugs. And, we've talked about hormones already. Chemical castration, that is such a terrible and inaccurate description of what a blocker does and the effects it has on the body and the long-term effects it has on the body. So that was, you couldn't even get any information out of this special person who was trying to help you understand. That was crazy. Now, this is another huge miss. This is Dr. Patrick Gerzonka, however you say that. And he is at the University of Tennessee. He's a professor of women, gender, and sexual studies. So this is probably a person that can connect some of these dots if we just ask them the right questions. But we couldn't. These are questions that I would have asked if I were you. Hey, look, can someone be taught to change their gender? With what you do, surely you know this. You're in the field of education. Is this possible? If so, what would that look like and what age would be possible? What causes the incongruence between biology and gender in some people? What problems are the trans community creating for cisgender women? I would have 100% asked that question. Why is there no backlash regarding female to male trans people? I mean, I do believe that it's interesting that where there's no fear, there's also no problems. I wonder if there was no fear on this other side, if there would be an equal number of problems. What's the correlation between someone's sex, gender, and sexual orientation? Connect those dots for us, if you can. If you can, what do you see as the common denominators? That would have been a good question, I think. And what does the research suggest regarding the increase of people, especially children, identifying as trans? I mean, don't you feel like that is information that we need to have? Don't you feel like that is dialogue that we should be having before we start taking away people's freedoms? Do any of those questions even seem reasonable to you? That was, again, a huge miss. Boom. All right, now we got Jordan Peterson, and he's worked up. But to his credit, he at least understands that sex and gender are different. He at least understands and was able to explain that, gender is really about temperament or nature that can be weighed on a masculine-feminine scale. At least he understood that. So then, Jordan Peterson, if you understand that, then I would be really interested in your opinion as to think, do people not have the ability to live the temperament that they have? Now, what you said was, maybe 10% of women have the temperament of a man. Okay, so for that 10%, do they get to live and connect to the world that they connect with? What is your opinion there? Do they get to live the temperament that they have? It's a yes or no question. I need an answer. Now, you follow it up by saying, but what are we going to do? Carve them up? Well, first of all, they're not pumpkins or poultry. We're not carving anybody up. Now, will there be surgeries? Well, yes, because Matt's dictating that. They're not going to be able to take the blockers that will keep them from growing things that were going to need to be removed later. But let's talk about this, because I'm all of this, child mutilation bullcrap and all of these, hormone things. So let's talk about this that's going on. Now, this slide right here comes from Reuters. This is youth in transition. So let's just go over these stats just for a second so we know exactly how many of these child mutilations. It's such a stupid word. Why don't you use mutilation for all of the, 1.5 million cosmetic surgeries that go on every single year? But let's take a look at the number of people that are taking hormones and blockers and having these surgeries, so we at least know what we're talking about and can decide whether or not it's worth stripping them of their freedoms. Now, again, you can see right there, this is from Reuters. This is, from 2017 to 2021. So that first box says new diagnosis in the United States of patients ages 6 to 17. So look at that. In 2017, there was 15,000 diagnoses of that. Look at 2021, 42,000. Why? Jordan Peterson, why? Miriam Grossman, why? It would be great. You have all of these professionals. Michelle Forcier, why? Why is this happening? Okay, let's go over here to puberty blockers, right? Because this puberty blockers is what you're calling chemical castration drug. Let's just go through this really quick. 2017, there were 633 trans kids that were taking blockers. In 2021, there was 1,390. 1,390? That's what we're talking about? Out of all of those people, that's all that is taking blockers is 1,390? I'm worried about the rest of them that aren't being chemically balanced yet. Let's go back to hormone therapy. Hormone therapy. Now they have introduced what you guys are calling cross-sex hormones. So now they're calibrating their temperament by adjusting the ratios of estrogen and testosterone in the system. So 2017, there was 1,900. And in 2021, there was only 4,200 people that were, taking some hormones. Only 4,200 people? 4,200 people? There are hundreds of millions of people that are going through hormone therapy worldwide, according to the Endocrine Society. Hundreds of millions of people that are adjusting their hormones, and now you have a group of people that is clearly needs probably some calibration, and only 4,200 people are having the opportunity to do that. What are we talking about here? Now let's go to top surgeries, because this is the child mutilation that we're talking about. How many of those happened? Well, in 2021, there were 282 top surgeries that happened. 282. So for 282 people, we're just going to take away the rights of everybody else. And how many of those 282 people, how many was that a bad decision? Now let's use Walt Heyer's numbers of 20% regret, or the other numbers of cosmetic surgery with a 20% are dissatisfied or unhappy with the results. Okay, great. So now, what is that, 56? 56? So now we just chopped everyone's rights down for 56 people that you think may regret what was their right to do. And how do you get to interfere with any of this? How are you calling this child mutilation? You want to go to centers? Hey, this is proof. These guys are doing gender-affirming care. Yeah, because people who are transgender need some gender-affirming care. And there are very few hospitals and places that are capable of doing that for the number of people that are identifying as transgender. Taking away the available health care would be the opposite of supporting these people. This is just absolutely crazy. I'm going to flash this one more time just to let you look at that and let it sink in. Now, if we compare this is from the Aesthetic Society. This is with regards to 20 and 21. But look at all of those procedures, right? Look at all of those procedures. You add all those up, that's 1.5 million procedures. I didn't hear anything from any of you guys talking about the butchering, the mutilation that's going on with these people here. Well, why not? Because they had a choice? Because they're adults? Is that why? Now, everybody gets to make whatever changes are possible to help them feel as congruent as possible. The Aesthetic Society released annual statistics revealing significant increase in face, breast, and body in 2021. Look at that. Facelifts increased 54% in 2020. Breast procedures increased 48%, and body procedures increased 63%. So when you say that they're going after the trans community, they don't need the trans community to work on. Almost nobody's even on blockers. Almost nobody's even having, double mastectomies. That's not who they're going after. That's not their target. Look at all this stuff. They will never get to all of your fat asses and everything you want to do. They're not targeting the community. Everybody gets the right to change their body to exactly how they want it to be. Is every one of those surgeries going to turn out perfect? No. Is everyone going to be happy with the results? No. But is it still their damn choice? Yes. So get out of it. Was that too much? Was that too strong? Yeah. No. We don't, I don't think we need any more help, honestly, from Matt Walsh or the Daily Wire on understanding what a woman is. I mean, it was clever. I get it. I mean, think about this. Matt Walsh and the Daily Wire made a fortune not solving a problem that they created. I mean, that's pretty street smart, really, if you think about it. I mean, I've never in my life heard anyone like, I'm stumped. Man, I'm so confused. I just don't know what the right definition of a woman is. I'm having a hard time getting past this. It's holding me back. If I just knew an appropriate definition of a woman. I've never once heard that. And then after all of this discombobulation and all this weirdness and all this missed opportunity, the answer is an adult female? That woman, female. Is that a circular? Okay, so what do I do with that information now? Exactly. How does that information, how does that definition change anything at all? So when you can make a fortune not solving a problem that you created, that's some freaking street smarts. That is street hustle. You're the guy capable of cruising down to a busy public park with 3 Solo cups and half of an empty walnut shell and making a living just hustling it up. That's that kind of smart. It's that kind of hustle. No, we don't need help anymore understanding what a woman is. We surely don't need help with you helping us understand who gets or who needs medical care, or anything like that. You've absolutely expressed your opinion. We get it. Thanks for that. But I could use some of your help. I really could. Because I'm having a hard time at this point in my life, growing up so conservative, growing up so love of country, so patriotic, so freedom, rights, freedom. I'm having a hard time understanding though what the definition of a Republican. That has gotten very confusing to me. So that is where I could use some help from Matt Walsh and the Daily Wire. What is a Republican? Because this new ATV initiative is driving me up the effing wall. You are so hell-bent on not recognizing people that you don't understand. You want to just make sure that nobody gets recognized. So I want to know what a Republican is, and I've even created this really clever little deal, because it feels like this is the new platform. It's the ATVRA initiative, and this is of course the Alliance for Trophy Verification and Recognition Auditing. Because they're just giving everybody trophies. So this program ensures that nobody gets undeserved credit when they know they could have done better. They know it. Why? Why are you putting any energy? Why? I see memes coming through. All of this problem. Transgenders, it's because we're just giving everybody recognition. And so now everybody thinks that they can just do whatever they want and be whatever they want. What does that have to do with transgender? Nah, when I grew up, this was the old platform. It was about liberty. It was about freedom. It was the separation of church and state. It was the pursuit of happiness. That was possible for everybody, and that's what made it feel special. It was about our independence, our privacy, the protection. It was about equal opportunity. It was about the right to bear arms and protect the freedoms in your family. It was about religious freedom. It was about justice. This is the platform that I grew up believing Republicans are. But there's nothing to indicate that now. Do you even know what the definition of liberty is? Let me just remind you, it's probably been a minute since you've seen the definition of liberty. Liberty, the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political view. Does that sound like the Republican Party to you? It doesn't feel like the Republican Party to me, because we don't have the liberty to choose our own identity, way of life, or behavior in some states. We don't have the freedom to live outside the expectations of others in some states. Imagine that. Now, where it used to be separation of church and state, now the church states and separation occurs, which division is the key to control. I'm just saying. Matt planted these seeds through this knucklehead, Carl Thuman, whatever his name is, the theologian. Thank goodness we brought a theologian into, because he really understands, God and the nature of God and God's desires and what God wants. And he helps create ideologies at churches from the theology. And so he plants these seeds. That personal happiness is not the key to individual flourishing. That we don't need to express our feelings or behave congruent with our nature. And that interfering with other people's happiness isn't bad. Well, why would you plant those seeds? Really, from a theologian, why were those seeds in, let me just point this out. I keep hearing the Republicans talk about grooming. This is grooming 101. Planting the seeds that your happiness is really not that important to your flourishing. So don't worry about being happy. It's not that big of a deal. Hey, and look, you don't have to be congruent. You don't need to express yourself. You don't have to be congruent. Forget that, because, some of what makes you congruent is not comfortable for others. Hey, and look, interfering with other people's happiness, Come on. It's not bad, you know? That's such a weird thing. We lost many rights and personal privacy and many of our individual rights under the Republicans through the Patriot Act in the illusion of our own protection. Again, if anybody tells you that they're taking your freedoms for your protection, you need protection. Trans youth are now denied the opportunity to even have adequate health care until they're adults, thanks to some Republicans. If Republicans got to just step in and just yank health care away, whew, we can no longer independently choose what's best for the health and welfare of our own children in some states, thanks to some Republicans. Wow. Religious influence now dictates how we dress, how we contribute, who we can love in some states. Now, justice means holding healthcare providers, law enforcement, teachers accountable for their unlawful affirming interactions with the trans community, thanks to some Republicans. Is that what a Republican is? Exactly. So I need some understanding on what exactly this party stands for. Because if you're not interested in my freedoms, then what are you interested in? Just my compliance? That's what you need? You need my compliance to advance your initiatives and all the things that are going to help you? Pass. That's a hard no. That's a hard no. Now, here's, I think, what you really need to understand, or I think, this is important to me. Number one, your gendered expectations of others is not sacred. Freedom is. Freedom is sacred. And the danger is that if you can separate somebody from what they connect with, what they value, their strengths, their potential, then it won't matter as much to them what they grab onto instead. You see how that works? The only absolute in all of this is that every temperament and every genetic combination possible is human. And for, some of you who are still having such a difficult time with the he and she stuff, I know it's so hard, but maybe this would be an easier way to think about it. Maybe socially, female or woman would be easiest defined as the feminine term for human. Like mom is the feminine term for parent. I believe giving respect, it doesn't mean giving in. Treating people with respect is a reflection of your character, not theirs. I didn't recognize anything in this documentary that was fearless. It was careless and inadequate for justifying the dismantling of anybody's freedoms and liberties. Again, courage is not the lack of caring. It wasn't fearless, it was careless. And courage is not the lack of caring. Courage is caring to know when you're wrong and doing everything you can to make it right. No, that wasn't. Grooming is grooming going on. It is going on, and it's grooming in your freaking party. That's where the grooming is going on. Show me the grooming of the young kid that's getting groomed to change gender. Please show me that. Not the people on the float, in these parades, these pride parades. That's not what I'm talking about. You got to separate all of those issues. I'm talking about the person, maybe it's a kid that goes to another kid and goes, "Psst, you want to do some Chinese jump rope? It's really freaking cool. And maybe I can call you Sarah." Like what is that? I mean, the kid's gonna be like, okay, who are we going to tie up? And who's Sarah? Tell me what the grooming looks like. How do you introduce that to somebody? The grooming is going on in this party, and you're all moved by memes. Every time there's a meme, you got to forward it to 1,000 people. But let me ask you if this meme means anything to you. The forest was shrinking, but the trees kept voting for the axe. For the axe was clever and convinced the trees that because his handle was wood, he was one of them. Does that feel at all familiar? Like, do you think that's relevant at all? You just chipping away at our rights, just chipping away at our freedoms. No, I got this. Look at my handle is wood. Here you go. Yeah, if that doesn't mean something. Okay, wait. What about this one? Does this one mean anything to you? All this division? Oh, look at all those people down there rioting. Oh, you don't need to fight them. You just need to convince the pitchfork people that the torch people want to take away their pitchforks. Does that feel familiar at all? Honestly, does that feel familiar? You got Jordan Peterson. If that school brings up diversity or inclusion, get them out of there. You got Candace Owens on there going, let me look in the camera and say right now, I will never, ever be an ally to the gay community or to the, I can't remember what she said. As soon as she said that, I turned it off. I didn't turn it off, but I muted it. But she said something like that. I want to just make everyone aware. I want to say on record that I will never be an ally to this group. And I think it was, I don't remember. And the reason that I muted it immediately and I have not listened to her since is because I will never intentionally listen to anybody that does not have the emotional intelligence of representing everybody. If you can't at least be willing to defend the freedoms and the rights of people that believe differently than you, then you've got nothing that's interesting to me. Nothing at all. And that's so disappointing because I really enjoy Candace Owens, but I will just never be influenced by someone who's not capable of representing everybody, period. You don't have to agree with them to still fight for their freedoms. Now, I do still watch, I did still watch her, and I've watched her, a time since then for a few minutes, but I didn't listen to her. There's still value in me watching her, and I'll tell you what it is. Number one, she's easy to look at. Number two, I love her style. Her style is so good. It's so professional, and it's so clean, and it's bold, but it's feminine. It's just very, very classy. And I've gotten some, I enjoy not looking at that, but also taking some, I think that would work. I think that wouldn't work. So that was a good example of how I like to represent myself. But the reason that I really, sat and watched her is because of how she communicates and how strong she is and how she moves and the confidence and just, I think that every girl would benefit from watching her communicate and just keeping that in the mind when you're commuting. Just the strength, the confidence, the clarity, the conviction, that is inspiring to me. And I like watching that because I like going, okay, that is how I want to represent. And it's so ironic, at the same time, she's making me a better woman. She's making me a weaker citizen. Oh, the irony. Anyway, I wish that wasn't the case. I wish I could listen to her again, but I won't listen to anybody that's not capable of representing it. That's just where I'm at. Now, let's keep going on. Oh, yeah, wait. And then you got Matt. Right in his interview with the guy with the accent. He said, look, will you ever just reach across the aisle? Do you see any way possible that you could ever bridge this gap and just for peace sake, reach across the aisle and just try to create peace and harmony? No, I will never. Why is anybody listening to this group? Anybody? Why are we being influenced by people that are not capable of defending the rights and freedoms of everybody? Is this the Freedom Party or is it not the Freedom Party? Like, honestly, what the hell is this? It's interesting. Going back to the analogy with Matt, and he's got this kid. Now this kid is not changing, so now they got to put him in school. Okay, how does that conversation work, Matt? You go to the school, you put him in there. How does that work? Now, let me introduce this idea. I read a couple of weeks ago that there was a 71-year-old trans woman, and in her comments, she mentioned that she just received her karyotype test, and she was a trisomy syndrome, which is 3 X's. So there's no Y's in her chromosome pattern. It was 3 X's, which I don't know. Maybe that makes her a woman and a half. I don't really know, but she's 71 years old and just got that. Now, I don't know this person. I didn't verify it, whatever. But it made me think immediately, I keep seeing all these memes of all these like soldiers and all these older guys going, in my generation, we would have kicked your ass. I see these memes. In my generation, we teach our kids how to change gears, not genders, right? And it made me go back to that. Okay, let's say that this person, when they were getting in school, let's say the technology was there, that they were, that they had that. Or take the person who has the XX, chromosome, but they're really a boy. Okay, so let's say they had that chromosome combination. They walk in school and it's 1965. Okay, you walk in with your kid and you say, hey, look, this is my daughter, Jessica. This is my daughter, Jessica, and we're new in the area. She's going to be in your class. You're going to love her. She's friendly. She's so happy. She's outgoing. She's positive. She's so helpful. And by the way, she has this really rare condition where even though she's a girl, her body developed like a boy. Here's her blood. Here's her blood work right here. But we're really glad to be here. We're grateful. So in 1965, what does a teacher do with that information? There's no social contagion. There's no social media. There's no grooming excuses. There's not all of that religious bias bullshit. So why does a teacher deal with that in 1965? No, it might go like this. Awesome. We're glad to have you. You're going to love the class. I think that we've got the best class in the whole grade. I can't wait to introduce you to everybody. Hey, everybody. this is Jessica. She's new to our class, right? And then that's going to be the end of it. Are the kids going to have a problem with that? No. Are there going to be some clever kids in there that say mean things? Yeah, because they're kids. Because they're kids and they want to be funny and they want to be, whatever. So, is some of that can happen? Yeah, but people get teased all the time. I'm not justifying it. I'm simply saying that is going to be the extent of that damage. Now, let's say in 1965, there's one kid that's not a mean kid. He's not belligerent. He's not hateful, but he's funny. He's clever. He's funny. And as it turns out, he knows a lot of different ways to refer to this person who's got this condition that they're a girl, but their boy developed like a body. And it's really easy to make a lot of people laugh, and that's, feels pretty good when that many people think that you're funny. So now, the child goes home crying, right? Matt's child goes home crying because this person, called names. So the teacher calls up the parent of that child and says, hey, listen, we got a problem. I love your kid. Your kid's doing great. He's a great kid, whatever. However, they're very, as you know already, very funny, very clever, very vocal. And we have a situation where we got a special kid in the class, and he's figured out a lot of ways to make people laugh at this child's expense. And she's not trying to hurt the child. I recognize that, but it is hurting the child. And so if you could help that child recognize that, it would sure be helpful, because if the child can't be respected, if it ends up being a problem or a safety issue for this child mentally, then we're probably going to have to remove your child if they can't just, stop making, jokes about this person nonstop. So, I'm not upset. I just need you to please deal with that so I don't have to, right? Now, how's the dad going to do this? All these people that said, I teach my kids to change gears instead of change gender. How does that dad handle that phone call when his son is making girls, cry? Right? Again, that's not true, because there's not all of these other excuses and social media to even fall back on. I'll tell you one way that I think that it may happen or may go down. The dad calls the son in, puts a package there on the table and says, son, how's it going? How's school going? Hey, listen, I understand that you're very funny and you're very clever. I also understand that you have a new student in the class. Oh, yeah. She's great. She's really great. Her name's Jessica. Whatever. Well, I understand that you made Jessica cry. I understand that she went home just in tears because of some things you said. Well, Dad, you know that I didn't mean it. I'm not going to hurt anybody. I don't want to hurt anybody. You know I didn't mean it. I was just joking. Got it. Well, listen, I got you something. Here's this box. This is a dress. If she cries one more time, you'll be wearing that dress for the rest of the year. Now, I bought it a little bit big so that it fits you for the whole year. So, that's where we're at. So if she cries again because you want to be funny, you'll be wearing a dress the rest of the year. Are we clear about that? But let me help you understand. Let me take this opportunity to help you understand what you're being groomed for. You're being groomed to be a man. Let me tell you about men and what men do. Men protect. They don't hurt. They don't walk around hurting people so that other people think that they're funnier. Men protect people that can't protect themselves. That's what they do. So, this is where you start becoming that person right here. And you will spend the rest of your year protecting her, because if she cries again, you're wearing a dress the rest of the year. Are we clear? Would you like to try on the dress? No? Okay. Well, then go and be better. Right? It could happen something like that, and that child is probably never going to have that issue again. So, how does that work now? Now Matt gets that phone call. Right? Matt's in there. He enrolls the student, his child. The teacher takes him in. Everything is all good. There's a kid, teasing his child. Matt's volunteering at the school at the time. He's a very good parent. I know he's away, but now he's volunteering because he's concerned about this child, and so he's in the classroom constantly helping out. But he's got this student that's teasing his daughter at this point, right? Now he's over there. The teacher calls the parent. Hey, look, your child is misgendering this student, just keeps calling her boy names, and I know he's not hurtful. I mean, I know he's not being, mean in his mind, and he's not trying to damage her, but it really is pretty hurtful. So if you could have him, kind of tone that down, right? That call goes out to that parent. But guess what? The next day, that parent comes in. And she's angry. And boom, kicks in the door, and there's Candace Owens. Right? Now, I'm here to address this issue. You're telling my son that he has to call a boy a girl's name? No. I'm here saying that your son needs to refer to a girl with a girl's name, right? Matt's over there just doing his best work with short, dull scissors, right? And Candace Owens is like, does that boy have a penis? The teacher, first of all, it's a girl. Second of all, we don't discuss private parts at school ever, ever. That's why we call them private parts, because we're private. So that's not a question that I'm going to answer, and it's not a question you should be asking, you freaking weirdo. That's a weird question. We have a student that needs to learn all the education, needs to learn social skills, needs to grow and be just as healthy as your child, period. Right? And I saw that little rant, she's like, I would go down there. I would get in that teacher's face and whatever. Okay, so now you're Matt. Now what are you doing? You're just sitting there like, oh shit, I created this scenario. Like I created this hostility by making them think that my kid, before I knew my kid was like this, is a repeat sex offender or doing weird things in bathrooms. And then they're going to want to be a cat at some point and possibly a walrus. But they, possibly could be a nudist. That's out there too. And we did talk to that person and he didn't have a problem with trans. So, so you've created this scenario, this nightmare for yourself. Why don't you just go all the way back to 1965 and ask yourself, how would they have handled this then? And what would our culture look like right now? If it were possible to know that genetically people are simply different. Temperamentally, people are simply different. But no, now you got all this social media excuse. Well, here's the deal with that. You're the one paying the bill. If that's really the excuse, then stop paying the bill or take the phone away. If you're not capable of teaching your kids respect, then take the phone away. If they're getting groomed through social media, take their phone away. That's pretty easy, right? But that's not the issue. That's not the problem. That's the excuse for poor parenting right there. That'd be real easy to deal with if that were it. That's, just my feelings on that deal. Let's see. Is there anything else that I really want to cover before I just wrap up? Speaking of that same thing, let's talk about this slide here because this is just more grooming. That's what I want to talk about right now, the grooming. The grooming is going on and the grooming is very, very hurtful. But it's coming from your party. It's coming from your party. It's not coming from people trying to groom little kids into being trans. That doesn't make sense at all. There's no advantage to that. Or at least if there is an advantage, I don't know what it is. So let me say that. But how about this ridiculous? I got this the other day. There's no pride in mutilating kids. Leave children alone and stop grooming them for your own perverted pleasure. So who are we digging on here? We're digging on, the pride flag. So we're digging on the gays. So there's no, gayness? There's no gay pride in mutilating kid. Now, which mutilations are you talking about exactly? Exactly. Now, you got a needle there, so it must be hormones. So you're telling me the mutilating kids is them adjusting the hormones like hundreds of millions of people get the opportunity to do so that they're healthy and stable? Is that the mutilation you're talking about? Because we just saw the numbers of kids that are, getting the mastectomies, whatever. And that just wasn't significant, number one. And it's none of your business, number two. So now we just bagged on the gays, the trans, and perpetuated this idea of all of this child mutilation and perversion for their perverted pleasure. Really, what does that look like? Let me my mind go there. Their perverted pleasure. What would that be with a little trans kid? You people are so mentally weak. It's absolutely embarrassing. Now, here is that theologian, Carl Trueman, historian, theologian, author, The Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self. Okay, so again, you need to understand that theology is a systematic study of the nature of the divine and more broadly religious belief. So here's our religious expert right here coming in. Hey, Carl, why is all this happening? Here's his response. Well, in the West at least, we have it drilled into our minds from childhood that personal happiness is the key to individual flourishing. In order for me to be happy, I have to express my feelings. I have to be outwardly that which I feel myself to be inwardly. We are taught that interfering with other people's happiness is very bad. Actually, I would really like Jordan Peterson to weigh in on that comment. I would love to know Jordan Peterson's take on that comment right there. Does he believe that it's okay to interfere with other people's happiness? Does he believe that in order to be happy, I need to be congruent? Expression. Help me understand, Jordan Peterson, how important that expressing your feelings and being congruent on the inside and outside is with regards to your self-worth, your self-value, your self-actualization. Help me understand what you think about this. Now, he says the question being asked by the transgender individual is, how can I be happy? The answer being given by having my body transformed to look like the other gender and being pumped full of hormones is clearly not working. It's not? It's not working for who? You mean it's not working for 20% of the people that were hoping for different results, or for they were doing it for a different reason? Is that who it's not working for, Carl Truman? Exactly, Carl Truman. So right now, we have 40% of the trans community that are attempting suicide, 82% that are thinking about it, and you're saying, well, don't be more congruent. I mean, we definitely don't want you to align. We don't want your inside and your outside to align. That's not going to be helpful. Like, where are the mental health professionals? Where are the doctors? How is everybody not standing up and going, what the hell is wrong with you, you theologian? Which church are they teaching this at? Exactly. I'd like to know exactly what congregations you influence with this level of grooming. Hey, does this mean anything to you? Come on, just do what you're told. Don't be selfish. It's for everyone's safety. This is for everyone's safety. Stop being paranoid. Stop being paranoid. Get up in there. Come on, this is for your safety. Trust me. I don't know. Does it feel related at all? No? Well, then let's go into this next slide. If that doesn't feel related, then let's go into this. A massive win in Tennessee as the outrage mob comes for my job. So this is Matt. He's bragging about getting this bill. This bill effectively bars doctors from prescribing puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones and from performing gender-related surgeries on minors for the purpose of medical transition. And importantly, it allows patients and their family members to sue doctors for damages. Y'all are okay with that, huh? Somebody just gets to step in and make doctors a target if they treat people that they know needs treatment and they know how to treat them? Really, that's okay with y'all, huh? Okay. We should not allow permanent life-altering decisions that hurt children or policies that suppress religious beliefs. Why in the hell is religious beliefs in the same thing that's taken away freedoms? Yeah, that's the religion I'm out on. If your religious beliefs dictate that you get to steal my freedoms, go F yourself. The answer is no. This is disgusting. Under no circumstances should minors be allowed to undergo irreversible elective procedures to mutilate their bodies and intentionally harm their reproductive system. Really, there's no circumstances, huh? Let me bounce something off of you. So there's a lot of boys that are born with a chemical imbalance which makes them develop breast. So what you're saying is that those boys are going to wear those breasts for the rest of their lives because there's just no circumstance that's going to allow the removal of that breast tissue so that child could live a more congruent life with the gender that they're going to actually live. That doesn't make sense to you, huh? Because you just yanked that ability from all those boys too. There's no circumstances. No, you don't get to talk about every circumstance possible. That is so freaking arrogant. So let me just go through the disconnects for me really quick. So here's the disconnects for me. Number one, there is no definition of a woman that is relevant to how I live my life. I believe that every human being gets to choose who they become, how they contribute, and who they love. Although biology cannot be changed and gender often aligns, biology is not absolute and gender is not assigned. It's expressed. The only absolute in all of those combinations that we looked at, and all of those hormonal balances, and all of those temperament varieties and combinations, the only absolute in every one of those is that everyone is human. That is the only absolute on that entire sheet. I think that changing gender, it can't be taught. And if so, I'd like to know how. I'd like to know where. I'd like to know when. I'd like to know how it's possible. And I'd like to know what is the advantage of doing that and who's doing it. But we will know if changing gender identities or changing identities is possible if there's a walrus outbreak. That's for sure. Gender expression and declaration, it does often happen at school, especially when there's a perception that those with whom they share this information can provide a safe and protective environment. And sometimes that's a teacher, sometimes that's a friend, sometimes that's a counselor, but it often happens at school because that's where some of the safest people are. That doesn't mean that they're being groomed. Again, the trans flag on the wall, the pride flag on the wall, it doesn't mean trans taught here, gay taught here. It means these people are safe here. They're safe here. And Matt, if your kid was that way, you would really be happy and appreciative that that was at least hanging on the wall so that your child knew they were somebody and they were safe there. All of you, veterans, in my time, what did you fight for? Which freedoms did you fight for? Just yours? Or you're the only ones that you fought for? Exactly. Pride and trans flags in school represent safety, not recruitment. You implied the targeting of women and children without providing evidence, who and why. I believe that if you can't demonstrate the danger, you shouldn't be allowed to create the fear. You want accountability with doctors and teachers and parents and police officers and all. You want accountability? I freaking want accountability. And I need to start in journalism. So if you can't demonstrate the danger, you sure as shit shouldn't be allowed to create the fear. That is not honest at all. Now, you think that the number of subscribers is the measure of your success. And I think that better citizens are. I don't believe that gender is a moral issue. I think that how you treat others is a moral issue. I think the 2 Great Commandments are probably a pretty good baseline for the treatment of others. So you maybe just review those if you're getting caught up in how you should treat. I reject any church getting to influence my behavior or my life's purpose. And furthermore, I think that some people's behavior is evidence that their church doesn't even influence them. So those are my disconnects. I have them on a slide. I want your opinion. Please reach out. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me what about that movie is still so profound to you that it's worth stripping people's health, stripping them from their parents. I could show you meme after meme after meme, grooming you people into hating people that you're going to have to care for at some point. This is not the first time we've seen this clever marketing. This clever marketing and this agenda we've already bought into one time, right? We all bought, this is exactly how they got us all to fear witches instead of the people that burned them. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, Matt Walsh, you can grab your pitchfork and your buddy from church and you can go on a trans hunt. You can do that. But know this, at some point, there will be a point. It might be your kids, it might be your grandkids, it may be your great-grandkids. At some point, that will be your person tied to the state. And at that point, when you go, hold on, wait a minute. I kind of want to understand this differently. They're going to go, what? No, that's your vote right there, right? You were the loudest. You were the loudest, and so that's how you got the front row seat. Yeah, you're the closest. You'll be the first one to see this child's hope, their dreams, their confidence, their self-actualization just melt right out of them. No, you did a great job. Thanks for all your help. And you're going to go, no, wait. This is, no, too late. That is not the time to understand this differently. This is the time to understand this differently. Now, again, the strength of or intensity of my opinion is an absolute reflection of the stupidity and the disingenuine purpose of this film. Now, Matt said, look, people are getting all worked up about the movie, but it was a silly movie. I just made it in fun. It was, it was kind of, lighthearted. No, you don't you don't accuse somebody of being a victim, then being a predator, showing some victims, and then go, them was just jokes. That was a lighthearted movie. No, that doesn't work that way. That's not how good journalism works. That's the bottom line. Now, I get it. There is popularity in being right. I get that. There's a lot of popularity being right, but there's longevity in being correct. You need to be more focused on being correct than being right, and you're going to go a lot further with it. I'm clearly upset because it is personal to me. And it's clear that some of you don't understand exactly what all of this is, and I'm completely comfortable with you not understanding what it is, and I'm completely comfortable helping you to better understand it. But between now and then, we have to preserve every freedom that we have, because we will never surrender one and get it back. And it will be your person. The only difference between my perspective and your perspective is proximity to the issue. That's all. That is the only difference. But when you don't get to think that way, when you have to think differently, then you're going to go, hey, where's that Kevin? I need to learn how to navigate through this. So it is coming your way. Set yourself up, set your people up for a much different experience than they are right now. Now, I have actually made a little key. I've made a key for Matt Walsh and the Daily Wire to help them. There's a lot of moving parts to this, right? There's so many moving parts, and the gay and then this and that, and it's really hard to keep straight. And so I made an actual key just to kind of help simplify things and keep it kind of in perspective, and bundle together in a way that's going to help you deal with it appropriately. So here's the key that I created for you. Here's the key to keeping it straight. When it comes to gender identity, sexual orientation, religious belief, or the rights over one's body, it's none of your business. It's none of your business. Now, you've made it your business. Again, you've created this incredible, cash register, this cash machine, not solving a problem that you created, but that doesn't make it your business. You've made it your business. You have made it your business. But if you really want to protect women and children, there's better ways to do it, because I don't know who you're helping now. You're not helping the mom and the dad going, oh, how are we going to do this? What does this child need? You're not helping the parents. You're not helping the trans. This movie did not represent you. It did not represent you in a way that honors you. It doesn't honor the trans community. It doesn't honor the parents. It doesn't honor the people that need to understand it and to care for this. This movie was an absolute turd collage. A great, big, juicy turd collage. That's what this movie was. It wasn't worth watching. It was a big bag of scat. That's what this movie was. In fact, if you do another one, you should call it that. You should call it Scat Bag. I mean, it's catchy, it's clever, it's descriptive of the content. Scat Bag. That's what you should call it. You're welcome. But this movie doesn't honor you, and it doesn't reflect what you're capable of. Matt, I think you're an A+ guy. This is D- work, and you are doing so much damage. You want to understand it better. Reach out. I don't dislike you. I don't dislike anybody there. But I'm not laying down and watching you guys strip us of our freedoms because you have a different moral code that's not run to how I live. So just do better. Now that you know better, just freaking do better. That's all I ask. I would love to be able to participate in your programming again, but I'm not going to. Not until there's some evidence that you're interested in protecting freedoms instead of just profiting off of bias.